In a world ruled by fierce beasts and ancient laws, 22-year-old Nami never imagined that a chance encounter in the Forbidden Forest would bind her fate to the legendary Alpha King. As love grows between them, wild, fierce, and forbidden, an unexpected life begins to stir within her, threatening to change everything. But in a kingdom where loyalty is tested and danger lurks in every shadow, can their love survive against all odds? Nami had always been warned never to step foot in the forest beyond the Crimson Cliffs. Elders spoke of shadows that whispered and creatures that watched with eyes that glowed like embers. But warnings only stirred her curiosity. At 22, independent and headstrong, Nami was tired of fear dictating her world. The stories didn't scare her anymore. They intrigued her. So, one twilight evening, wrapped in a deep green cloak and with her boots crunching softly on the carpet of fallen leaves, she crossed the old boundary stone and entered the Forbidden Forest. The air was cooler here, scented with pine, damp earth, and something sweetly wild. The light dimmed quickly under the dense canopy, casting twisted shadows that danced with each breeze. Nami pressed forward, her heart quickening with both excitement and apprehension. Suddenly, the trees opened into a wide clearing bathed in moonlight. In its center stood a figure. He was tall, unnervingly still, with hair like raven feathers that shimmered darkly under the moon. Muscles coiled beneath a cloak of fur draped across his broad shoulders, and a crown of antlered bone rested lightly atop his head. His eyes, piercing silver and ancient, met hers the moment she stepped into the clearing. "You should not be here," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the ground. "I wanted to see for myself what lies beyond the stories," Nami replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. The figure studied her. "Many enter this forest out of arrogance. Few do so with honesty. What is your name, mortal?" "Nami," she said. He stepped closer. The moonlight revealed more. Tattoos like claw marks across his chest, a faint glow surrounding him as if the forest itself bent toward his presence. "I am Rayn," he said, "Alpha King of this realm." She took an unconscious step back. The name echoed in the old tales. Rayn, the wolf king who ruled the forest of shadow and mist, neither beast nor man, feared by all, seen by none. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said. "I thought the stories were myths." He tilted his head. "Truth wears the mask of myth to protect itself, but you walked into truth tonight." A hush fell over the clearing. Then Rayn raised a hand. The wind stilled. The forest listened. "You are brave," he said at last. "Foolish, but brave, and different." He stepped closer until they were barely a breath apart. Nami felt a pulse of energy between them, like electricity coiled under her skin. "Why have you truly come, Nami?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. The truth rose unbidden. "I don't know where I belong," she whispered. "I hoped. Maybe here, maybe anywhere but the life I'm supposed to live." Rayn's gaze softened, though his presence remained overwhelming. "You seek purpose. You might find it here, but not without cost." The forest darkened as clouds swallowed the moon. Rayn's form shimmered, and for a moment Nami saw a great silver wolf standing where he had been. Massive, regal, eyes still silver. "Go back," his voice echoed in her mind. "For now." When she blinked, the clearing was empty. Only the wind and her rapid heartbeat remained. Nami turned, walking quickly at first, then running, but in her chest a wildness had taken root. The forest was no longer just a forbidden place. It was a part of her story now, and somewhere in its depths, the Alpha King waited. The air in the underground tavern was thick with smoke and murmured secrets. Nami stood by the doorway, her eyes scanning the room with calculated calm, but her pulse betrayed her. She was used to danger, it was part of the job, but nothing had prepared her for him. Rayn sat alone at the far end of the room, his dark coat draped over the back of his chair, his broad shoulders relaxed yet alert. His presence pulled at her like gravity. There was a stillness to him, the kind that warned of storms hidden beneath calm waters. Rumor had it he was a mercenary, a former enforcer gone rogue. Some said he'd killed for gold, others said he'd killed for less. Still, Nami stepped forward. Their eyes met. Rayn didn't flinch. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying her like a puzzle he hadn't quite solved yet. She moved with quiet precision, too graceful to be just a traveler, too confident to be harmless. His instincts sharpened. She wasn't there by chance. Looking for someone? His voice was low, gravelly, but oddly soothing. Depends, Nami replied, stopping just short of his table. You, Rayn? His brow arched. Who's asking? Nami gave a half smile, more warning than charm. Someone who hears things. Rayn leaned back, folding his arms. Most people who hear things tend to regret it. Not me, she said. I collect regrets like souvenirs. The corner of his mouth twitched. The ghost of a smile. He didn't trust her, but he was intrigued. Nami felt the tension coiling between them, not hostile, but electric. Something about him, the way he looked at her without flinching, as if he saw straight through her defenses, unsettled her. And yet, she didn't want to look away. You're not from around here, he said finally. Neither are you, she countered. He nodded slowly, acknowledging the truth. Why are you really here? Nami hesitated. She could lie. She usually did. But something in his voice, the hint of curiosity laced with suspicion, made her pause. I need your help, she admitted. Rayn's eyes narrowed. People don't usually ask for my help unless they're desperate or stupid. Maybe I'm both. He chuckled, a dry sound. At least you're honest. A long silence stretched between them. Rayn gestured to the seat across from him, and Nami sat, her fingers brushing the edge of the table. She could feel his gaze on her, assessing, measuring. She'd dealt with killers, smugglers, even corrupt officials, but Rayn was different. He wasn't trying to impress or intimidate. He didn't have to. You've got trouble, he said finally, not as a question, but a statement. I've had worse, she replied. Rayn tilted his head again. You're not scared of me. Nami looked him straight in the eye. Should I be? He gave her a slow, deliberate smile. Probably. And yet, beneath the warning, there was something else. Something softer, barely there. Interest, recognition. She felt it too. He shouldn't trust her. She shouldn't get close to him. They both knew it. But as their conversation deepened, the line between danger and desire began to blur. Neither could name what they felt, but they knew it was real and reckless. In the shadows of that dim tavern, a dangerous attraction began to burn, slow, steady, and unstoppable. The moon hung low over the canopy, filtering silver light through the swaying branches. Nami sat near the edge of the campfire, watching the shadows dance across the clearing. Rayn stood a few paces away, arms crossed, gaze distant, guarded as always. She'd been traveling with the pack for nearly 2 weeks now, but Rayn had remained a fortress of silence. Commands came in clipped tones. He never lingered, never looked her in the eye longer than necessary. But tonight, something felt different. "You always keep watch alone?" Nami asked softly, breaking the hush. Rayn didn't answer at first. The fire crackled between them. Then finally, his voice reached her, low, gravel-edged. "It's easier. Alone, I don't have to hide it." She tilted her head. "Hide what?" He turned, eyes flashing in the firelight, not with anger, but with something older, wilder. "What I am. I know you're the Alpha," she said, gentle. "I know about the beast." He stepped closer, and the light caught his face fully, angular, harsh in the human world. But there was something noble there, too, something wounded. "It's not just a transformation, Nami. It's not like a costume I put on. The beast is always there, in my thoughts, in my instincts. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a man pretending to be a wolf, or a wolf pretending to be a man." She looked up at him, heart tightening. "That's not how I see you." Rayn laughed, short and bitter. "You barely know me." "Then let me," she said. "Let me try." He stared at her for a long moment, studying her face like it held a map to something he'd lost. Then he sat down beside her, the shift in posture subtle but monumental. He didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was quieter, rough with old memories. "I was born like this, not bitten, not cursed, born. My father was Alpha before me, cold, cruel. He taught me strength through pain. I learned to fight before I could speak." Nami listened, unmoving. The fire's glow turned his eyes gold for a moment, more beast than man, yet more human than he'd ever seemed. "When I challenged him for leadership," Rayn continued, "I wasn't ready. He nearly killed me. But the pack, they chose me anyway. They saw something in me, something different, something better," Nami whispered. He glanced at her, surprised. "Maybe. I try to lead with control, with reason, but the beast, it doesn't understand mercy. It wants to dominate, protect, kill if it must. And you hold that back every day," she said. "That takes strength, too." Rayn looked down at his hands, calloused, strong, shaking ever so slightly. "You're not afraid of me?" She reached out, fingers brushing his. "Number, because I see the man and the beast, and I trust both." He blinked, as if her words struck something deep and unfamiliar. Then slowly he turned his hand and wrapped his fingers around hers. For the first time, the tension in his shoulders eased. "I don't know if I can ever be normal," he said. Nami smiled. "Good. The world's full of normal. I'd rather walk beside someone real." Rayn's expression softened just for a moment. In that flicker, the Alpha and the man stood together, unified, not in conflict. The fire cracked again. The wind stirred the trees above, and in the quiet that followed, trust settled between them, tentative, fragile, but growing between worlds, between natures, between two hearts, learning to understand. It began with quiet moments, glances that lingered a second too long, conversations that stretched past midnight. There was something unspoken between them, a magnetic undercurrent that neither fully acknowledged but both felt with growing certainty. In each other's presence, the world seemed to slow down, edges softening, time bending to accommodate their unfolding story. They started to spend more time together, sometimes with an excuse, sometimes with none. A walk after work turned into dinner. Coffee breaks extended into shared meals and laughter echoing between sips. It wasn't always about what they did. It was about how it felt, easy, natural, safe. Their conversations grew deeper, stripped of small talk and filled with vulnerability. He told her about the scar on his wrist from when he was 8, trying to build a treehouse. She told him how she still carried the weight of a decision she made years ago, one that changed the course of her life. There was no judgment, only understanding. Words weren't always necessary. Sometimes silence spoke loudest, resting comfortably between them like a familiar song. The first touch was accidental. Their hands brushed as they reached for the same book, and the jolt was electric. Neither said anything, but both noticed. After that, their touches grew more intentional. A hand on the shoulder during a laugh, fingers grazing an arm in passing. The comfort of physical closeness became undeniable, as if their bodies were learning the language their hearts had already begun to speak. One evening, they sat side by side on a park bench, the sun dipping low behind them, casting golden light across their faces. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. She looked at him, not startled, not surprised, just seen. The moment held them like a pause in music, right before the next note changes everything. And then it did. Their first kiss was soft, unhurried. It didn't demand or announce. It simply was, like it had been waiting patiently for its time. It was the quiet answer to a question they'd both been asking with every glance, every lingering moment. From there, the bond deepened in ways that surprised even them. Their connection wasn't built on grand gestures, but on consistency. A text in the morning, a shared playlist, long walks in the evening. The ordinary became extraordinary, simply because it was shared. There were challenges, of course, moments of doubt, of hesitation, vulnerabilities exposed like raw nerves, but they faced them together, sometimes clumsily, sometimes gracefully, always honestly. Every misunderstanding became a lesson, every apology a stitch that mended the growing fabric of trust. Friends began to notice the change, not just in the way they looked at each other, but in how they were. He smiled more. She seemed lighter. Together, they radiated something unmistakable, the gentle gravity of two people who had found something rare and real. It wasn't perfect. Love never is. But it was intentional. They chose each other, not out of convenience, not out of fear of loneliness, but because something inside them recognized the other as home. As seasons shifted, so did they, growing closer, roots entwining quietly beneath the surface. What had started as casual companionship had transformed quietly and powerfully into a deep, enduring connection. Their bond was no longer fragile. It had become a sanctuary. And still, every time their hands found each other, it felt new, familiar, sacred, as if they were always meant to meet at this exact intersection of time and heart. Nami didn't remember when the tension shifted, when stolen glances and teasing words gave way to something deeper, sharper. But now, as Rayn's eyes burned into hers, there was no denying the truth thrumming through her veins. She was falling in love. It hit her not like a flutter, but like a wave crashing, sudden, powerful, terrifying. She wasn't used to feeling small, not emotionally, not when she'd built a life on strength and independence. But around Rayn, she felt raw, open, and somehow safe. They stood beneath the twin moons, the forest humming around them with night sounds. His hands brushed hers, warm and sure, and the heat in his gaze made her stomach twist. "You keep looking at me like I might vanish," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. "You wouldn't," Rayn murmured. "I'd never let you." His words sent a shiver down her spine. There was no uncertainty in them, no hesitation, just the weight of certainty. "You say that like it's a vow," she said. "It is." He stepped closer, towering over her, the scent of cedar and steel clinging to his skin. "I've waited, fought it, but I see you, Nami, and I can't see anything else anymore." Her heart pounded. "Rayn, you are my Jodel," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "My bonded, my only. I've known it from the moment you stood defiant before me. Fire in your eyes. Jodel." The word echoed in her mind, not a title, a declaration. She should have laughed, should have questioned, deflected, run, but her body moved on instinct. She reached up and cupped his jaw, fingers trembling slightly. "I don't know how to be someone's everything," she admitted. "You don't have to try. You already are." His lips found hers, hungry and unyielding. The kiss was acclaiming, no gentleness, no caution, just heat, fierce, wild heat. She melted into it, lost in the storm of him. When they finally broke apart, her breath came in gasps. "What are we doing, Rayn?" "Burning," he said, brushing his forehead against hers. "And I'll burn for you every day." Possessiveness flared in his eyes, not cruel, but primal, protective. Nami felt it wrap around her like armor. He pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. "If anyone tries to take you from me, gods help them. I won't be gentle." "I don't want gentle," she whispered, fingers fisting in his shirt. "I want real. I want you." A low growl rumbled in his chest, and he lifted her into his arms like she weighed nothing. "Then you'll have all of me," he said. "Every breath, every scar, every vow." She clung to him as he carried her back toward camp, her heart thudding like war drums. She had never belonged to anyone, never let herself want to. But this fierce, consuming love, it was hers now, and she would fight for it, no matter the cost. The first flutter was so faint, Nami thought she imagined it. A ripple, like a fish brushing the surface of still water. She paused, her hand instinctively going to her belly. It was late evening, and the quiet hum of the village had faded into the crackling of the fire in her hearth. Outside, the wind stirred the leaves of the old trees that ringed her home. But inside, something was different. Something had changed. For days now, Nami had been feeling off. Not ill exactly, but not quite herself either. Her energy dipped in the mornings, her appetite changed, and her emotions seemed to rise and fall with the tide. Still, she hadn't given it much thought. Life had been busy. After all, the harvest festival had just ended, and Rayn had only recently returned from the northern ridge, bringing stories, laughter, and that crooked smile that always made her heart race. Rayn. Just the thought of him sent warmth through her chest. He was unpredictable, like the sea, sometimes gentle, sometimes wild, but always real. He had stayed longer than expected this time, lingering at her doorstep, his hands rough from travel, his eyes soft when they looked at her. Their moments together had been few, but intense. A touch here, a whispered promise there, and then, that night under the full moon when words gave way to instinct and they had lost themselves in each other. Nami's thoughts were broken by another sensation, more distinct this time, a flutter deep within. She sat down slowly, both hands now cradling her abdomen. Her breath caught. It wasn't gas or some strange twist of digestion. It was movement, life, new life. It dawned on her all at once, the signs clicking into place like puzzle pieces. The weariness, the change in her senses, the tug in her spirit that she had tried to ignore. Her heart pounded in her chest as realization washed over her like a tide. She was pregnant. Tears welled in her eyes, unbidden, not out of fear, though there was some of that, but out of awe. She had never imagined herself as a mother, not yet. Her world had always been one of freedom and wandering, of herbal remedies and quiet mornings spent under the trees. But now, everything shifted. This child was Rayn's. Of that she was certain, and that made the small flutter inside her all the more profound. A piece of him was growing within her, taking shape, finding its own rhythm in the quiet sanctuary of her body. She wondered if the child would have his wild spirit or his deep, thoughtful eyes. Would it laugh like he did, or gaze up at the stars in wonder just as she always had? A sudden wave of uncertainty hit her. Would he stay once he knew? Would he want to? Rayn was a wanderer by nature, never in one place for long. She had always accepted that about him. But now things were different. She wasn't alone anymore. There was another life to consider, a tiny beating heart that had already begun to reshape her world. Yet, beneath the questions and the fears, a quiet joy bloomed in her chest. She placed her hand over her belly again, smiling through her tears. This was unexpected, yes, but it was also a gift, a sign of new beginnings, of transformation. She could feel the old rhythms of her life shifting like the changing of the seasons. Whatever came next, she would meet it with open arms. For now, she was not just Nami, the healer, the dreamer, the quiet soul of the forest. She was a vessel for life, a bearer of something wondrous. And the tiny kick that met her hand told her everything she needed to know. She was ready. Rayn stood frozen for a breathless moment, the words echoing in his mind like the distant toll of a bell. "I'm pregnant," she had whispered, her voice trembling, eyes glistening with uncertainty. But it was not uncertainty that took hold of him. It was pure, overwhelming joy. A wide grin split across his face, and the next instant he swept her into his arms, spinning her gently in the air. His chest rumbled with laughter, deep and full, the sound reverberating through the room. When he set her down, he cradled her face with both hands, his thumb brushing a tear from her cheek. "You've given me the greatest gift," he murmured, kissing her forehead, her cheeks, her lips in rapid succession. She laughed softly, clinging to his shirt, as if grounding herself in the storm of emotion swirling around them both. From that moment, Rayn changed. Where once he had been protective, he became vigilant. His eyes never strayed far from her, even in a room full of trusted pack members. His hand was always on her, resting on her lower back, fingers entwined with hers, or pressed gently over her stomach, as if already feeling the life within. She teased him about it once, calling him overbearing, but the softness in her gaze betrayed her affection. "I can't help it," he said, half smiling. "You carry my future." Rayn, the alpha known for his steel composure and fearsome power, now beamed with unguarded affection. He kissed her every chance he got, on her neck as he passed by, on her hand when they sat together, on her lips when no one was watching. He touched her like she was made of something sacred. He insisted on walking with her everywhere, even if it meant postponing meetings or letting his beta handle matters of the pack. The bond between them, already strong, deepened into something primal and fierce. His instincts were sharpened, his senses constantly attuned to her presence. The moment her breath hitched or she moved a certain way, he was by her side in an instant, concern etched in every line of his face. "I'm fine," she often reassured him with a chuckle, but her smile told him she didn't mind the attention. One night, as they lay tangled in warm sheets, her head resting on his chest, he whispered, "I didn't know I could love anyone more, but now I love both of you so much it hurts." She tilted her head to look up at him. "You're going to be an amazing father?" He turned to face her, his expression solemn. "Because you're going to be an amazing mother, and I will protect you both with everything I am." Outside, the wind stirred through the forest trees, but inside their den, everything was quiet, warm, safe. The alpha, fierce, dominant, powerful, had found his greatest joy not in war or victory, but in the heartbeat beneath his hand and the life they had created together. As the days passed, Rayn grew only more attentive. He brought her favorite foods, built a sun-drenched nook where she could rest, and spoke to the unborn pup each night, his voice low and tender. He told stories of pack loyalty, of love, of bravery, preparing his child even now for the world they would enter. His joy was not loud. It was in the way he held her closer when she slept, in the way he softened his voice just for her, in the way his entire world narrowed to a single, unwavering truth. She was his mate. She was carrying his legacy, and nothing, not time, nor threat, nor fate, would ever take that joy from him. The great hall of Eldergrove Castle was thick with murmurs and unease. Torches flickered along the stone walls, casting long shadows over the gathered pack leaders. Rayn stood at the center, her heart pounding beneath the weight of her crown. Though she wore the silver circlet proudly, its cold touch was a reminder of the impossible position she now held as a human queen of a wolf pack. Around her, the elders exchanged glances heavy with doubt. The wolf born fierce and proud was slow to accept a human among their own, especially as ruler. In hushed tones, they whispered words sharp as claws, words of betrayal, rebellion, and ancient laws broken. "I do not understand how this came to be," growled Garin, the eldest pack lieutenant, his grizzled face stern with disapproval. "How can a human, one without the blood of the wolves, lead us? It is a betrayal to our ancestors." Rayn met his gaze, steady but strained. "Because I am of this land," she said quietly. "Because I fought beside you, bled with you, and will protect this pack as fiercely as any wolf born under the moon." A ripple of discontent spread through the hall. Murmurs grew louder, voices rising in frustration and anger. "She's one of the village folk," snarled Riva, a younger alpha from the northern forest. "What right has she to command us? The pack follows strength and tradition, not promises." Rayn's closest allies stood firm, their loyalty like a shield around her. Jorin, her trusted second in command, stepped forward, voice low but resolute. Rayn's courage saved us during the winter hunt when the wolves were weakest. She earned her place not by blood, but by deeds. But even his words couldn't quiet the growing storm. The pack's laws, etched into memory and bone, favored leaders born of the wild, wolves with the strength of claw and fang, steeped in the old ways. A human queen was a challenge to everything they knew. From the shadows near the great hearth, an elder stepped forward, Mara, keeper of the ancient rites. Her eyes, sharp and ancient, swept over the assembly. "The pact between man and wolf is fragile," she intoned. "If broken, it invites ruin. To crown a human is to risk that fragile peace." Rayn's jaw tightened. "We are stronger united. The enemy is not among us but beyond the borders, waiting for signs of weakness." But Mara's warning lingered, and doubt festered like a wound. Whispers grew into plotting. Some believed it was only a matter of time before betrayal would come from within the pack itself. That night, in the shadowed woods beyond the castle, a secret council gathered. Garen and Riva, joined by several dissenting alphas, exchanged words of rebellion. Their voices were cold with resolve. "We cannot let this human queen bind us with fragile promises," Garen declared. "If she will not step down, then we must force her." Riva's eyes glittered with fierce determination. "The pack will remember its true blood. We will rally those who still believe in the old ways. The time for whispers is over." Back in Elder Grove Castle, Rayn sat alone in her chamber, the weight of her crown heavy on her brow. The wall seemed to close in as she listened to the distant howls echoing through the night. The pack divided, restless, uncertain. She clenched her fists. "If rebellion comes," she whispered, "then I will meet it with every ounce of strength I have. This kingdom will not fall to fear or tradition. It will rise on trust and loyalty forged in fire." Outside, the moon hung low, casting silver light over the restless land. The future of the kingdom and the fragile alliance between human and wolf balanced on a knife's edge. Rayn's heart pounded in his chest as the distant echoes of battle drums reverberated through the dense forest. The ancient war was upon them once again, the clash of his own kind, the Qunari, those fierce warriors bound by centuries of rigid tradition. But Rayn's mission was different. He fought not for honor nor glory, but to protect Nami, the woman he loved, and the life growing inside her. The Qunari lived by unyielding laws, loyalty to the tribe above all else, and above all, the purity of their bloodline. Any deviation was met with exile or worse. Rayn had broken every rule by falling in love with Nami, a woman from a rival clan, and now she was carrying their child. The child was a symbol of unity for some, but a dangerous betrayal for others. Rayn knew the consequences well. Their village had become a battlefield overnight. The elders, driven by fear and hatred, decreed that any mixed blood must be eradicated to preserve their way of life. Rayn stood at the edge of the clearing, eyes burning with fierce determination. He could hear the approaching footsteps, his brothers in arms, once friends, now enemies. "Nami is not just my future," he whispered, feeling her warmth beside him. "She is the future of us all." The first wave of warriors burst into the clearing, weapons raised. Rayn stepped forward, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Stop! This is madness. We fight our own blood when the real threat is the hatred within us." But his words fell on deaf ears. The leader, Kalen, stepped forward, a childhood friend turned adversary. "You've betrayed us, Rayn. Your child is a curse." Rayn's grip tightened around his spear. "Number, our child is hope. If we cannot change, we perish." The clash was brutal. Rayn moved with a ferocity born of desperation, every strike a promise to Nami and their unborn child. The fight was not just for survival. It was a battle for a future where love could overcome the iron grip of tradition. Amidst the bloodshed, Rayn saw Kalen falter. The old friend's eyes wavered, a flicker of doubt breaking through his fury. "Why do you risk everything for this woman?" Kaelin demanded, voice strained. Rayn's gaze never wavered. Because love is stronger than any law. It's the force that binds us all. Without it, we are nothing. The warriors hesitated, their resolve shaking. One by one, weapons lowered. The fight that had seemed inevitable began to dissolve into silence. Rayn stepped forward, extending a hand not just to Kaelin, but to the future, one forged in sacrifice, resilience, and the courage to defy the past. Nami clung to him as the sun broke through the trees, casting light on a new dawn. Together, they would raise a child who carried the strength of two worlds, proving that survival was not about rigid tradition, but the sacrifices made for love and the hope it inspires. The threat that once loomed over their lands had finally been vanquished. The skies had cleared, and peace settled like a gentle breeze across the kingdom. Nami and Rayn, once divided by the barriers of species and tradition, now ruled side by side, united not only in power, but in love. Their story, once whispered as a forbidden legend, was now the foundation of a new era. Nami was born of the forest, a fierce yet graceful beast whose strength and wisdom commanded respect. Rayn, a human prince, had once been her greatest adversary, but fate had rewritten their destinies. Their union was a symbol, proof that love could transcend the deepest divides. The birth of their child marked a turning point for the realm, a being who bore both the heart of humanity and the spirit of the wild. Their child embodied hope, unity, and the promise of change. From the moment the infant's cries echoed through the palace, the kingdom knew that a new reign had begun. The palace itself was transformed to reflect this new harmony. Walls once adorned with the banners of separate factions were now draped in vibrant tapestries depicting intertwined forests and cities, beasts and humans living side by side. The gardens blossomed with flora from both realms, a living testament to their blended heritage. Under Nami and Rayn's rule, old prejudices began to fade. The humans, who had once feared the beasts as monsters, learned to see their kinship. The beasts, who had long hidden in the shadows to avoid persecution, stepped into the light with newfound pride. Markets buzzed with merchants selling goods crafted from both worlds. Hand-woven fabrics mingled with leatherwork, enchanted herbs alongside finely forged blades. But peace was not simply handed to them. It was forged through tireless effort and unwavering dedication. Nami and Rayn traveled the kingdom, listening to their people, bridging gaps and settling disputes. Where once there had been fear and suspicion, now there was dialogue and understanding. Their child, growing quickly, became a symbol of this change, a living bridge between two worlds. One day, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with hues of amber and rose, Nami stood at the balcony of the palace, watching the bustling town below. Rayn joined her, his hand slipping into hers effortlessly. "Our child will grow up in a world neither of us dared to dream of," Rayn said softly. Nami smiled, her eyes reflecting the glow of the setting sun. "A world where love is stronger than fear, where our people walk side by side, not as enemies, but as family." Their child, a curious mix of both, had eyes that sparkled with intelligence and compassion. The child's laughter echoed through the halls, a sound so pure it could heal even the deepest wounds. The story of their love spread beyond the kingdom's borders, inspiring other lands to reconsider their own divisions. Envoys came to learn the secrets of unity, and alliances were forged in the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. Nami and Rayn's reign became a beacon of hope, proving that even the most unlikely unions could bring about profound change. At the heart of their rule was a simple truth. Love is not confined by form or tradition. It thrives where hearts are open and courage is found to embrace the unknown. As the seasons changed, the kingdom flourished. Children of both beast and human played together in the fields, their laughter blending with the songs of the forest. Festivals celebrated the diversity of their people, weaving stories and songs that honored the past while looking boldly toward the future. In quiet moments, Nami would cradle their child close, whispering promises of protection and hope. Rayn, ever her partner, would stand beside her, their strength and love a shield against any darkness that dared return. Together they ruled, not as separate sovereigns, but as one. Their reign was not just about power, but about the rebirth of a world where love knew no bounds. And so, beneath the endless sky, a new era dawned, a reign of love, unity, and boundless hope, forever changing the fate of their world. When Nami stumbles into the domain of the fierce Alpha King, she never expects to awaken a love so wild it defies nature itself. But as their bond deepens, she feels a new life growing inside her, a child that could unite two worlds or tear them apart forever. Will their passion survive the dangerous secrets lurking in the shadows? Or will the laws of the wild destroy them both? Dive into this epic fantasy romance where love knows no boundaries.